All right, welcome back to the Mike and George show. And today we are going to be talking about some MLB pennant races. George, we have 5 games to go in the MLB season. This is going to be a nuts finish. We're also going to preview some college football. We got a loaded Saturday slate coming up here in a few days. We also got some marquee NFL games to look forward to. We got a couple undefeated teams and the Eagles and Bucks going against each other. We got a Ravens-Chiefs game between teams that are about to be, one of them's going to be 1-3. But we have to start in the MLB. This is, George, last episode, we were talking about how much we like the Tigers out of the AL. Tigers, Mariners, Jays. Well, since then, since we recorded this, the Tigers have not won a game. They've lost 7 in a row, I believe, or maybe 8 in a row.
I think it's 9.
Oh, they've lost 9 in a row. Yeah, you're right. And the Guardians have won, I believe, 13 of 14 to catch them.
Yeah.
This is unprecedented stuff. A month and a half ago, the Tigers were up by 14 and a half games. They were up by 10 and a half games at the start of September, just a few weeks ago. This is now, after the Guardians won last night on a crazy game against Scooball and the Tigers to tie it. Both teams are sitting now at 85 and 72 with 5 games to go. The Guardians, at this moment, have the tiebreaker. So if the season ended right now, they would be the AL Central champions. They have officially caught the Tigers. They do still have 2 more games here to go in this series against in Cleveland. So if Detroit splits these 2 games, if they split these 2 games, Cleveland will have the division lead heading into the final weekend series of the year. So Detroit's got to win these next 2 games, it really feels like. And then Detroit finishes with Boston as their last 3 games. Boston's still fighting for a playoff spot. So this is Cleveland might win this division. This is insane. So yeah, I mean, what are you're the big Tigers guy on here. The Tigers are not only in danger of, losing the Central, which they no longer have first place in the Central. They're now in danger of possibly missing the playoffs, which is crazy to think about. They're holding on to the last wildcard spot. They're only a game ahead of Houston.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I've been the Tigers guy pretty much since the middle of the year, and I will say it's not 9 in a row; it's 9 of the last 10, but still not much better. Not much better. But I mean, frankly, it kind of feels like the Tigers' bats have just kind of disappeared. Over the last 10 game stretch, I think it's 2.5 runs a game, maybe 3 runs a game, and it's just not going to get it done down the stretch, right? Everyone talks about the bullpen, and the bullpen's fine. We saw last night with the David Fry injury, that was terrible.
It's really bad.
But yeah, it just kind of feels like that's the way things are going right now for the Tigers, and you just kind of scrape your way into the playoffs, and then you get to the playoffs, and you just don't know. But credit to Cleveland. They've been playing some really good baseball. It kind of feels like we see this consistently. Cleveland always, late September, puts something together. Remember, a few years back, they won 22 games in a row on the back of Shane Bieber, I should say. Yeah. Credit to Cleveland. They've been playing really well. And I think I'm looking right now, they still have a negative run differential. So they're just clawing by, getting wins. And that's kind of the difference. They've won 9 of the last 10. Tigers have lost 9 of the last 10, like you mentioned. And credit to them, they've been playing great. We saw obviously Toronto is the best team in the AL right now, pretty comfortably. Last night, a lot of dramatic. What's that?
Well, here's the thing. Last time we recorded this, I said the Jays have it locked up. The division's over. We're up by 5 games with 10 to go. This division lead is down to 1 game.
It is.
The Yankees have come all the way back to 1 game, and the Yankees finished with the White Sox and the Orioles. The Jays are right now in the midst of a 3-game set against Boston, a game which we lost last night. We still have 2 more with Boston. Tonight we got to face Crochet. This division could be tied up by the end of the day, Jays and Yankees. So we got 2 pennant races in the AL right now, which is undetermined. I mean, the Jays, I thought we had it on cruise control, and now again, the bats aren't getting anything going with Bichette out the last few weeks. He's been out for the last 3 weeks. The Yankees are playing some really bad competition right now, so it's anyone's guess in that division too. But to go back to the Guardians' point, they're just winning games 3-2, 2-1. Their pitching has been unbelievable in this stretch. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but their bullpen has been locked down since the start of September. Their starting pitching ERA is low 3, I think, or low, sub 3. It's been really, really impressive. The Tigers' bats have vanished, like you mentioned. They are basically limping into the playoffs if they do get there, because I think they are going to get there. The Astros are absolutely submarining down the stretch here. We can get to them too.
Yeah.
Because the Mariners went in there, the biggest series of the season by far was Mariners at Astros in Minute Maid, a 3-game series. Both teams were 84 and 69 heading into that 3-game set. Whoever won that series and took 2 out of 3 would have the tiebreaker and the division lead heading into the last 6 games. The Mariners went in there and won all 3 relatively convincingly, swept the Astros out of Minute Maid, took a 3-game lead plus the tiebreaker, so really a 4-game lead into the final 6 games in the final 2 series. Seattle has that division basically over now. Yeah, they're up by 4 or 5 games with 5 to go. So they would have to lose their last 5.
Playing Colorado, to playing the Rockies.
Yeah, they're playing the Rockies too. So this division is basically over. The Astros have fallen out of a playoff spot. So not only have they blown the West, they're out of the playoffs right now. They no longer hold on to a playoff spot for the first time since May 25th. So Cleveland obviously has risen not only to a wild card, now they have the AL Central. Detroit's fallen to the third wild card spot. They're hanging on for dear life, but the Astros as well are submarining out of here. So who's like these teams that we mentioned all year long, the Tigers, the Astros, the Jays, they're all kind of falling apart. The Jays are in the playoffs comfortably, but they might not win their division now. Tigers and Astros might fall out entirely. What's going on with this AL wild card?
Yeah, I will say I apologize. I missed the Yankees a second ago. That's on me. But yeah, no, you're right. Houston just similar to Detroit, kind of this last week or so, just completely just fallen down the stretch, right? I mean, to be honest, it's hard to put a finger on it. You know, they're not really scoring either, and that's just kind of, and it's series to series in baseball. You know, like you can have a series where you score 4 runs total, and you'll have one where you score 15, right? So it really does kind of depend on what's going on, but. You know, I mean, it's just hard. It's hard to see because we know I love the Tigers is what kills me the most. Is I was been so high on the Tigers, and to see them fall apart like that is just absurd. But credit to that Mariners as well. You know, the Mariners played really good down the stretch. I've been really impressed with what they've shown, and it's kind of like with Julio Rodriguez, like not really even not playing his best. So I mean, who knows what we're going to see in the playoffs because the AL feels wide open right now, like you said. I know the Jays look good last night. Couple questionable calls this whole or 2 nights ago with the Springer.
Yes.
You know, I thought that was brutal for y'all right there. But
3 games in this week, the Varsho catch that they didn't rule it was a catch. They totally screwed us on that one. They said, oh, he didn't catch it, he trapped it. He did not. He obviously caught that ball. That was such a bad call. That was in Kansas City. And then last night, the Springer 2-run double, which was a fair ball, they called it foul and it's not reviewable. The Jays have lost 2 games this past week that, like, again, I don't want to be the ump guy and blame the umps or anything like that, but man, you know,
that ball down the line would have been game changing, huge.
Would have been a 2-run double. Yeah. With the bases loaded, and then he gets called out on strike 3 that was way outside by Doug Eddings. So the Jays kind of got screwed last night. Nonetheless, she's still going to bounce back tonight and face Crochet on the mound. So it's not doesn't get any easier. But I mentioned I think the Mariners are playing the best ball in the AL right now. I think they, as of today, would be my pick to win the American League because it's all about who gets hot in October. And it's something about this Kyle Raleigh season that I just can't get over. I mean, this guy comes in there, switch hitter, and he hits a moonshot against the Astros to basically solidify that series sweep on Sunday Night Baseball the other day. Basically ending the Astros' hopes of winning the West for like the 8th year in a row or whatever it is. Yeah. Something crazy like that. So the Mariners appear poised to win the AL West. Not only win the AL West, they're going to get the first round bye because the Tigers have, submarine down the stretch here. And, the winner of the AL Central is going to be the 3 seed at this point. So Seattle's got that 2 seed pretty much on lock. They're 3 games clear of the AL Central. They're 2 games behind the Jays for that number 1 seed. But nonetheless, Seattle's in a really good spot. I mean, what else in the AL before we go to the NL here do you think is like newsworthy? I mean, do you think right now it's Boston, Detroit, Houston, and Cleveland fighting for 3 spots? It's 4 teams fighting for 3 spots.
It just kind of feels like 4 teams fighting for 3 spots, and it's 4 really talented teams, right? You kind of look around the AL, and like Houston, I think is again still always is one of the most talented teams in the AL, and they have right now, as it stands, the worst odds to make the playoffs as they're I think a game back of the Tigers right now. And obviously the Tigers are kind of tanking, but you just don't know, right? I mean, you would have loved to see them then get one with Scuba last night, and then you kind of saw the the Guardians small balling them to death. And it's the stuff like that, right? That's what wins baseball games. Everyone, you pay the guys who hit the bombs and throw 100 miles an hour, but you win the baseball games in September and October with the bunts and the fielding and the clean.
Put the ball in play
and getting runners over, right? Put the ball in play, and I think credit to the Guardians, like I said, obviously, but yeah, it feels like a really talented team is going to get left out of the playoffs here, and I think it's going to be Houston if they don't turn something on.
Yeah, you mentioned the Guardians. They scored 3 runs in that 6th inning without a ball leaving the infield, which was nuts against Tarek Skubal. They were able to muster up 3 runs that way with a bunt single, a swinging bunt basically down the chopper down the third base line, which the Tigers threw it away, then a wild pitch. And it's just unbelievable 6th inning. It felt like the Guardians magic. If you would ask me, hey, what is Cleveland Guardians baseball? I'd be like, that 6th inning last night against the Tigers, down 2 runs against Tarek Skubal to score 3 runs without a ball leaving the infield to win that game. Really impressive stuff. I agree with you. I think the 3 teams that'll get in, I think Cleveland and Detroit will both get in. I think Boston's safely in as well. I think Houston's going to be the one on the outside looking in. They can't score runs right now. They went to Sacramento last night. They have a 3-game series with the A's against the Oakland A's that are playing in Sacramento, and they couldn't score runs. Jeffrey Springs really shut them down last night. So I just don't think the Astros, unfortunately, can turn this thing around. They've lost 4 in a row, which means, Tigers have lost 9 of 10. The Astros have lost 4 straight. So both teams are kind of limping to the finish line here. I think Detroit can still muster up a few more wins. I don't know if I'm as confident in Houston doing that. Nonetheless, the Jays and Yankees series I'm most worried about, or the Jays and Yankees pennant race, I should say, is what I'm most worried about, because I think that the Yankees might not lose another game. They got 2 more with the White Sox, they got 3 with the Orioles, they could easily finish 5-0, and then the Jays have to go 4-1 to win the division. So not going to be easy at all, but still some things left. We'll go back over this on Monday is when the bracket comes out, obviously, or Sunday night is when the bracket comes out because game 162 is on Sunday. But let's shift to the NL. NL, we have a wild card race for the third wild card race. Everyone else is clinched. There's 5 teams that have clinched in the NL. Padres just clinched 2 nights ago with
one spot left, right?
Yeah, 1 spot left. The Mets were out of a playoff spot as of yesterday, 24 hours ago. They were out of a playoff spot. The Reds had it. Then what happens last night? The Reds drop a game at home to the Pirates, of all things. And the Mets go on the road to Wrigley Field and win 9-7. Crazy comeback. The Mets were down 6-0 in that game. Francisco Alvarez, the hero in that game, had a 2-run bomb in the 8th, I believe, to give them a 9-7 lead. The Mets now are back up by a game over the Reds and the Snakes. The Snakes last night came from 4-0 down to stun the Dodgers, walk them off on a Geraldo Perdomo RBI single to win it. 5-4. So the Snakes came back and walked off the Dodgers. They're 1 game behind the Mets. The Reds are 1 game behind the Mets. There's 5 games left. The Mets have 2 more with the Cubs and Wrigley. Then they got to face 3 more games against the Miami Marlins, who have won 8 in a row, if you can believe that. So they're still in it. They're only 4. Yeah, the Marlins are only 4 games back with 5 games to go, and they played the Mets 3 times to end the year. So if they're within 3 games of the Mets with 3 games to go, they could still, maybe. But it's basically Mets, Reds, and Diamondbacks. 3 teams fighting for 1 spot. Who do we think gets it?
Yeah, it's so hard to pick between them. I mean, the Mets seems like by far the most talented team on this list. They kind of had that big lead right in the middle of the year and have kind of let them back into it. As of late, last week or 2, they've been playing a little bit better, But I think I'm going to go Mets, not out of a place of kindness in my heart, but just out of a place of play the numbers. They've got so much talent on that team. Juan Soto is getting ready to have a very under the radar 40-40 season. If he gets 40 stolen bases as well, if he gets 5 more. So make sure to keep an eye on that. But yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like the Reds, it feels surprised to be here. Their stadium isn't packed out. They're not exactly playing with that fire and energy. They're dropping games to the Pirates, and it's not like it's Paul Skeens. It was kind of. I watched a little bit of that game. It was a bullpen game. They had I think 5 guys that threw an inning, so it wasn't exactly the best ever from the Pirates. So I mean, it's baseball, so every game is going to be a little bit different. You can lose a game in a million different ways. But yeah, right now, I mean, I'd like to say Mets just pure talent wise, but I truly don't have an idea. I love that the Marlins are still in it. The Marlins are a lot of fun. The Mets, that'd be such a Mets thing for them to lose 3 in a row and drop out of it all entirely to the Marlins. I don't think it'll happen, especially with the Reds and the Diamondbacks as well back there that would also have to lose all of their games. But I mean, you never know. But yeah, I think I like the Mets. I don't like them, but I think I prefer the Mets in this pick. But it's just hard to say.
Yeah, the Reds, they finished with 3 at the Brewers. So if you're the Reds, you want to get your wins right now against Pittsburgh. You dropped the first game. The Reds have to win these next 2 games against Pittsburgh and put the pressure on the Mets. Because if it is tied, the Reds would go to the postseason. They have the tiebreaker over the Mets. And the Mets still have 2 more games at Wrigley Field. So, if they're able to go 1-1 and the Reds finish 2-0, the Reds would have the 6th and final wild card or the 6th and final spot in the NL heading into the last 3 games against the Brewers. Are the Brewers trying to win those 3 games? Who knows? Diamondbacks again.
Yeah, Brewers are playing right now. Jackson Chorio actually just robbed a 3-run homer, so they're doing their best.
They're still okay. Yeah, because they don't have that number 1 seed locked up. The Phillies are only 2 games behind them. With still 5 to go. So the Brewers are trying to lock up that number 1 seed and get home field throughout the entire MLB playoffs. So no doubt they're still going to be trying to get those wins. The Reds, if you asked me this yesterday, I would have said Reds might actually make it because they have the Pirates for 3 games, who are not a good baseball team. They could really stack up some wins. Meanwhile, the Mets are facing a really talented Cubs team that still has something to play for as well. They're trying to lock up home field in that NL Wildcard series because they're basically locked into that 4-5 matchup. The Brewers obviously central. So the only question is, are the Cubs going to be the 4 seed or the 5 seed? Are they going to host the NL Wildcard series against San Diego or the Dodgers, or are they going to go on the road for it? That's basically the only thing with the Cubs. But the Cubs are trying to win those games and solidify home field in that 3-game Wildcard series. And they have to win these games against the Mets. So the Mets are fighting for a playoff spot. The Cubs are fighting to host a series.
The Cubs quietly lost 5 in a row here. So they're not playing their best, and the Mets, when they need to play their best, are kind of catching at the right time.
Yeah, the Cubs lost 3 in a row. They got swept by the Reds, which is why the Reds are even in this spot to begin with. They swept the Cubs at Wrigley Field, and now they have caught the Mets as a result until last night, obviously, where they dropped that game against the Pirates and the Mets win at the Cubs. So if the Reds, it's tough. I'm going to go with the Mets, but I don't feel any confidence with the Mets right now. The Mets obviously lost to the Nationals, and if you look at the record that the Mets have, I believe they started 52-35, whatever it is. Yeah. Since that moment, I believe it's like mid-June or mid-July, whatever it is, they have They're only one game better than the Nationals. So the last few months, they have basically been the Washington Nationals. They have basically been one of the worst teams in baseball. No disrespect for it.
No,
but they,
it's the right,
but
it's
they
the right way to describe it.
But like that's what I'm saying. Like the Mets, it's a collapse. But the Mets have been playing like one of the worst teams in baseball the last few months. Like they were in first place in the division. Now they might not even make the playoffs. So they have been playing on a league average of like the Pirates and the Nationals. They have been playing at that level for the last few months.
Yeah.
They may be able to survive it, but they have not been. They're limping in the way to the postseason, just like the Tigers are, just like the Astros. They're limping down the stretch here.
Yeah, assuming they make it, that is obviously. We both like them, but I mean, a 1-game lead's never comfortable.
No.
Yeah, it kind of felt like halfway through, like we've been talking about that, it was going to be Phillies, Mets, and then with Zach Wheeler going down, I was like, well, this feels like the Mets division, right? Phillies got a bunch of great hitters, but I mean, their bullpen's good, but without Zach Wheeler to anchor down their rotation, it felt like the Mets had a chance to win it. And like you said, they've played terrible. And I've been a Nats fan for a long time. If you're being compared to the Nationals this year, it's not a good place to be. I can promise you that. And like you said, we beat them 2 out of 3 the other day down the stretch in late September. So
crazy catches by was that Jacob Young who caught that ball?
Jacob Young off his foot. One of them, and nobody really saw it because everyone's watching football obviously and whatnot. But it was an incredibly impressive play by Jacob Young. But yeah, it just kind of feels like the Mets, they're just playing a little bit lethargic. And I know it's hard to play in late September, but it's like you gotta lean on your fans. You gotta lean on the intangibles, right? The stuff that's your body's tired, you're done. It's in 155 games, you only need 7 more or whatever it is. You gotta lean on the little things, right? Play for each other. And so it's kind of one of those things where as long as you get in, right? It's just like March Madness. You get in, you got a shot. You just get in the bracket. But like you said, they've been playing bad baseball for a couple months now, so it's hard to say they're trending up, and it's not gonna be comfortable for them.
Yeah, they're playing a lot of young pitchers as well. Like they have not. Kodai Senga is still down there in the minor leagues. Apparently his stuff isn't there, but even if the stuff's not there, I mean, they are relying on a lot of young rookie pitchers to get them to the stretch here. McLean and another couple of the rookies there that are pitching here for the Mets. So maybe they can get in if they can. I still don't like their chances in the playoffs. Like I mentioned, they still have yet to win a game. They did come back and tie the Nationals, but they lost in extra innings in 11 games. So they did finally come back and tie a game in the 9th inning while trailing by 1. But they didn't win that game. Nonetheless, what a crazy finish this is going to be. The Snakes are alive. The Reds are right there. The Mets right now have it by 1 game, but the Reds have the tiebreaker. So anything can happen with 5 games to go. So should we segue into the NFL slate here? I mean, we got a few pretty marquee. Yeah, we can
definitely slide. Yeah, we'll switch over there.
Yeah, so we got the big game at 1:00 this week on Sunday is the undefeated defending champions Super Bowl Philadelphia Eagles at 3-0, coming off of a crazy comeback win against the Rams, down 26-7 at halftime. They come back and win that game with the blocked field goal from Jordan Davis, who then houses it to cover the spread, ironically enough. But now they're facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are also 3-0. All 3 of their wins are by last second. Either field goal or last second touchdown.
It's Baker for you.
It's the Bake Show. Clutch 3 game-winning drives in 3 weeks. So someone's going to be 4-0 in that game. Ironically enough, here's what's funny about this game. Philadelphia also played Tampa Bay last year in Week 4, and they got housed in Week 4. That dropped them to 2-2. And remember, people were like, "Oh, Sirianni's on the hot seat. The Eagles are 2-2. Yeah. What's going on?" The Bucs scored on I think every drive of that game. They just carved up the Eagles. And since that game against the Bucs, where they dropped to 2-2, the Eagles are 19-1 in their last 20 games. Their one loss was to the Commanders on that last second play.
With a not fully healthy Jalen Hurts,
with Kenny Pickett for most of the game, right? So
they've been unstoppable. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were 2-2 last year after getting shellacked by Tampa Bay. They finished the year 14-3 with that one loss against Washington. So they basically finished the season 12-1. And then they win their 3 games in the playoffs, and then they start this season 3-0. So they have won 19 of 20 now, dating back to last season after that loss at Tampa Bay in this exact same spot in Week 4. Now it feels like these 2 teams are the heavyweights in the NFC. I mean, we got 3-0 versus 3-0. Last year, this time the Eagles were struggling. Now, like I said, they've won 19 of 20. They're basically, since that Tampa Bay game, they've been unstoppable. But the Bucs have always had their number for some reason. I think the Bucs have now beaten them 3 times in a row. They're looking for their 4th straight win. Yeah, they're looking for their 4th straight win against Tampa. Remember, they blew them out in the wild card game the year before. That was when the Eagles kind of faltered down the stretch. Remember, in that wild card game, that was Jason Kelsey's final game as an Eagle. The Bucs have always played their best against the Eagles. I think it's because those Todd Bowles exotic blitzes are really tough for Jalen Hurts and those guys to kind of adjust to. He just sends a lot of exotic looks, and that pressure always gets home. But Mike Evans not in this game. He's got a hamstring injury. He'll be out 3 or 4 weeks. So you probably like the Eagles in this matchup. But again, Jalen Hurts has had his worst games against the Bucs defense and Todd Bowles. So what do we think about this matchup? 3-0 versus 3-0.
Yeah, with the first thing I was going to talk about similar to you was Mike Evans, obviously. I mean, that's a big loss for Baker in the offense. But Baker is going to spread it around. I trust him to still get points. And I think this is a spot where, it's easy to say it, but if if Philly comes out kind of how they did last week against the Rams, where they just couldn't really get the ball going, took them till the second half to really throw the ball to A.J. Brown and finally get the offense moving. I think if they come out like that against the Bucs are going to take advantage and probably win the game. Because I trust the Bucs offense to not just score early, but to score the whole time. I love Baker even without Mike Evans. I think they've got a great dual backfield with Bucky Irving and Rashad White. Emeka Egbuka obviously has been incredible to start the season. And don't look now, but Chris Godwin's been practicing this week. So there's a world where they have him back in the slot.
And worse. I
actually didn't know that. So thank you for telling me.
They're both practicing this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the Eagles are a more talented roster. With Mike Evans, they should be able to lean on the Bucs. But like I said, if they come out and pretty much put up a blank first half, I think the Bucs will win this game. It's 3.5 for the Eagles in the Bucs building, and I think Baker, he loves his motivation. He feels like the underdog, and he is, and he's gonna play like with his hair on fire. So I think I like the Eagles here, but I think it's only given a good start and given a consistency and a willingness to throw the ball from the get-go rather than getting stuffed. Because you're right, the Todd Bowles offense is going to come, and it's going to come hard, and we'll see what goes on.
Yeah, I mentioned that they've struggled against the Bucs. They've also played the Bucs 4 straight. This will be the 4th straight time they play the Bucs in Tampa Bay. So they haven't really gotten them at home much. I don't know how that scheduling works out or whatever it is, but they've played Tampa Bay a lot of the time early season in Florida, which you know what that means. That means it's hot, sticky.
Hot. Humid. Yeah, it's gonna apparently 100 plus this week is what
it's going to be sticky. It's going to be humid. It's going to be really hot. It's going to be ugly weather. It's not Philadelphia weather, so that's kind of the point. It's Tampa Bay weather, so that it is 3.5, but this is not. I don't know why the Eagles always struggle down here in Florida. Maybe it's because of the heat. Early September, they always play them early September. It could also be Todd Bowles. Just knows how to play against these teams and scheme up things defensively. But we'll see. I think Jalen Hurts in the second half last week showed a lot of improvement when they finally let him air it out, get A.J. Brown the ball in one-on-one scenarios. If A.J. Brown's one-on-one, there's never any reason to not look that way. Never. I mean, I know Saquon has always had his monster games against the Rams, but it took the Eagles a half to realize, wait a second.
Just throw to that guy.
They're stacking the box. There's one-on-one against – we got an all-pro receiver over here in A.J. Brown. Throw the ball to him. And he's just running over – he's literally a truck on the field. He's literally running over people. Emmanuel Forbes was in there. Obviously, we know his time in Washington. He never really played well against A.J. Brown. He always struggled against him. Those things reared their ugly heads on Sunday against the Rams. He ran over Emmanuel Forbes, ran over a couple other guys. The Rams have a lot of small corners, so it's like, I'll take the big guy on the outside and throw the ball to him all the time. So it's gonna be interesting. The Bucs are another physical defense, though, but you can certainly throw the ball to A.J. Brown whenever you want to. This is a guy that most often is going to come down with these balls one-on-one, and Hurts was really good in that second half against the Rams. So I'm interested to see how that game's going to go.
Yeah,
I can't pick the Bucs with confidence because they are without 3 stars on the offensive line, and this Eagles front four, man, is just unbelievable. Like, I'm worried for Baker as a Baker guy. I'm worried that with the injuries the Bucs have, even if Wirfs is able to play, he'd be making a season debut. It's a tough team to make your season debut against. I mean, the Eagles, they can get after you, man. It's tough. Yeah. You're also without Luke Gedeke. You're also without Cody Mauch. They're without 3 of their guys on the offensive line. So it feels like another game that's going to come out of the wire. Can the Bucs have 4 straight game-winning drives? I don't know. Eventually, that luck's going to run out. You would think, right?
Yeah, you would think. I mean, it just feels like a spot where, like you said, Baker's probably going to be under pressure a lot. He's going to have to make plays happen with his legs, and I trust him to do that. But it's going to be tough because if the Eagles are scoring like they probably can be, that offense is still so strong.
They can score 30.
Yeah, they could easily score 30, 35 plus. So, you talked about it. It feels like these guys play each other every year, and I think I got to fact check this, but I'm pretty sure the Bucs are the Eagles' most common out of division opponent. Yeah, the last 5 seasons, including the playoffs, including regular season. So there is something to be said about this kind of a familiarity. It almost feels like a division game because they play so much. And so, I hope Ted Bowles has the guys ready. I mean, the Eagles, both of these teams have kind of not played their best football, I think, in the first few weeks, and are still 3-0. So credit to them both. Yeah. It feels like a spot where hopefully they're both going to have their best game, and it's going to be a great one. It's a shame it's in the 1:00 slot, but I mean, like you said, it's going to be a scorcher. So someone's going to falter here. There's going to be a story coming out of this one.
I'm just really excited because you mentioned both teams have not played their best football, and yet they're both 3-0. So someone's going to be a really, really dangerous 4-0 team after this game, assuming neither team has played their best ball, and yet one of them's going to be 4-0 and probably has their best ball left in front of them. Mm-hmm. It's a 1:00 game, and the reason why it's not a 4:25 game is because I don't think they want to, have this one at the same time as Ravens and Chiefs at 4:25 here in the late window. 1-2 Baltimore. We're both really high on Baltimore. I don't think either of us envisioned them being 1-2. The Chiefs are 1-2, but they lost to two really good teams, the Eagles, as we just
talked
talked
about.
Tough
draw, yeah.
They played the Chargers. They lost both by one score. We knew the Chiefs' one score luck wouldn't. They had won 17 straight one score games. They obviously they're 0-2 this year in one score games. So that eventually was going to cool off a little bit. But they lost to two good teams. Nothing to panic about there. But whoever loses this game is going to be 1-3, a very angry 1-3 in the AFC. Is it going to be Baltimore? If Baltimore's 1-3, I get they played Buffalo, Detroit, and now Kansas City. So a very tough first 4 games if you're playing those 3 teams of your first 4 games. But you expect Baltimore to win one of those games, for sure. Not just drop all of them. Their only win right now is Cleveland. And then Kansas City, if Kansas City falls to 1-3 and, drop both of their home games, they drop the home game against Philly. If they lose another home game, that would be 0-2 home start. That we would not envision either. So who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, this is a tough spot because we just talked about 2 3-0 teams that have not played their best football. Now here's 2 1-2 teams who have also obviously not played their best football, right. And someone is top 5 1-3 with the top 5 Super Bowl odds most likely when it comes to Monday afternoon. So yeah, I mean the Ravens are favored here in Arrowhead, which is I think a statement to credit to the Ravens because the Vegas still believes in that roster, and I still do too. But I think that defense just has really disappointed me. It just feels like they're not rallying to tackle. It feels like they're penalizing. Like it just feels like a lot of stuff there. And then we saw Detroit really get after Lamar. I haven't seen Lamar at least 7 times. 7 times, and not just that, but really contained. When he's taken off with his feet, they've got guys around him. They've got two plus spies out there. They've got guys within 5 yards of depth about to hit him and hit him low where they know he can't run. So I thought credit to Detroit, I will say, with a great game plan. But I think I like Baltimore. I know it's a bit of a hot take, but to me, it just feels like Kansas City's issues run a little bit deeper than, kind of short term. It feels like that roster is really still kind of sputtering. And I think it's a pissed off Ravens team who feels like they've let a couple go away, and they definitely have. And then Derrick Henry, who I assume is just going to get 50 carries because he's going to be coming out with steam out of his ears.
3 fumbles in 3 weeks.
3 fumbles in 3 weeks, all in relatively big spots. The Browns game was kind of not really relevant, but the 2 losses, definitely huge fumbles from Derrick Henry, which pretty much cost them the game both times. So yeah, it's gonna be an awesome game. 425. This is gonna be. It feels like the Chiefs have all the pressure in the world on them. And the Ravens kind of do too, but the Chiefs, it's just like they're always on prime time, and the Ravens kind of are as well. And, Mahomes gets all this love, and Andy Reid gets all this love, and he can do it without Kelsey, without his weapons, with his weapons. And so it feels like a spot where the Chiefs kind of have to identify themselves and say, hey, at least keep it close. And I think you can lose this game and still make the playoffs. It's early in the year, but you can't get smoked here. 1-3 with a blowout loss at home is not pretty. So I think I like the Ravens here, just pure talent-wise and because they're healthier, but I don't feel great about it because that Ravens defense is a huge question mark.
I'm worried about the Ravens defense. I usually Baltimore games, they kind of let it get away. They blow the game. They beat themselves. Monday night, they just got punched in the mouth by Detroit. I mean, I know they were without Nnamdi Madubuike. I know they were without Kyle Van Noy, but the rest of that defense is still really, really talented on paper, and they couldn't buy a stop. Detroit had multiple 98-yard touchdown drives relatively easily. One of them was a 4-minute 98-yard touchdown drive. The other one was 11 minutes. They did whatever they wanted on the line of scrimmage play, and that was really concerning. Baltimore getting kicked in the mouth at the line of scrimmage, and then 7 sacks. I have to give credit to Detroit's linebackers. I don't think a lot of teams have the personnel that Detroit has to do that to Lamar. I mean, Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes to contain him in the pocket and not allow any explosive plays on the field as far as the run game goes, and to make those tackles in the open field. I remember one tackle that Lamar was going to score a touchdown. It would have been a 30-yard touchdown. It was a shoestring tackle by Derek Barnes, who was, actually dropped back in coverage and made an instinctive play to come back and say, I need to contain Lamar because that's the most, that's the biggest threat on the field right now is Lamar Jackson's legs. So let me instinctively make a play on him. So Detroit gets all the credit in the world, but I'm worried about this Baltimore defense. Their offense is fine. They're scoring 30 points plus a game. They've scored 30 plus in every single game so far. So you basically have to score 30 to beat Baltimore. And I don't know if the Chiefs can score 30, right? The Chiefs haven't scored 30.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was coming from.
They have a long streak of not scoring 30 points. The Chiefs have not scored 30 in a long time. It's not.
They're gonna need 30. They're gonna need 30.
Yeah, they're gonna need 30. 100%. It feels like a 30 to 27, 33 to 30 kind of game. And the Ravens obviously can get to 30, but their defense has been really, really problematic to the point where if the Chiefs can get their guys back a little bit, I don't know if Worthy's going to play this week. Obviously, you still have 3 more Rashee Rice suspension games you have to sit through, and Kelsey just looks a little bit, lethargic and slow. I mean, look, he definitely does. Last year, it's not really the same guy.
He's an engaged man now.
Yeah, it is what he's an engaged man now. It is what it is. That's just the nature of the business. But I think I like Baltimore because I can't envision them falling to 1-3. I think the pressure is on Kansas City, not because 1-3 is bad, whatever it is. I think it's because of what the Chargers are doing. The Chargers are going to be 4-0. The Chargers have a rookie quarterback in Jackson Dart they're facing this week. They're going to beat the Giants this week and get to 4-0 in all likelihood. And if the Chiefs lose and fall to 1-3, they just can't afford to. You cannot afford to be 3 games back. Plus, you already lost to LA, so you don't have the tiebreaker right now. LA is 3-0 in their division already. They played 3 division games. They beat Las Vegas. They beat Denver on the last second field. They beat Kansas City. So they're already 3-0 in division. And they're going to be 4-0 here after Sunday. So if you're Kansas City, you cannot be 1-3 and 3 games behind, or you're in danger of, for the first time in Mahomes' career, not winning the AFC West and starting the playoff on the road as a wild card. So they need this game, I think, equally as much as Baltimore needs it, but for other reasons, because I think Baltimore, obviously, if Baltimore's 1-3, they'll still make the playoffs. And you don't want to, obviously, you play Detroit, Kansas City, and Buffalo. So if you lose those 3 games, it is what it is. But in the AFC North, there's more leeway. It's kind of, Bengals without the quarterback, Steelers are kind of whatever. The Browns, the Browns won a game, but they'll be fine. But if you're Baltimore, you don't want to be 1-3, considering how weird the AFC North is. They always kind of struggle in AFC North games, anyways. AFC North games are always weird and fluky. You might lose a game very strangely, so you don't want to be 1-3 and put yourself behind 8 ball. Neither of these teams can really afford to be 1-3.
Yeah,
they're probably both going to make it, but yeah.
Yeah. I like you said, obviously, but I mean, I don't. It's hard because it's so hard to pick because I don't know if I see the Chiefs fall into 0-2 at home here. But to me, I think what it comes down to is, Ravens offense is great. Chiefs defense is pretty much great. But I think I trust, and this might be a little risky of me to say this, and next week we'll find out. But I think I trust that Ravens defense a little bit more than I trust some of those Chiefs offensive weapons, And I trust Mahomes, obviously, and Kelsey relatively, but I will say he does look a touch slower than usual. But I think with Nate Wiggins, with Roquan Smith, with Kyle Hamilton, I think they're going to be able to play a lot of man, which they like to play as well. And I think they're going to be able to get enough pressure where Mahomes is, because he's been struggling as is against probably some defenses who don't have the personnel. Because I think the Ravens defense personnel-wise is great. They've got a lot of guys there that can make plays. Like I think if Kyle Hamilton stays with Travis Kelce all night, there's a chance that he's just completely taken off the board. Right. And obviously, whoever Nate Wiggins is guarding, pretty similar. That's a guy who can stay with anyone stride for stride. So I think that as long as the Ravens get to 30, I think they're going to win this game. I will say that Arrowhead's going to be going crazy. They're kind of in wounded animal mode. They've been hit a couple times, and Mahomes has looked shaky. So they're going to be packed the house out for this game. But I love the Ravens. I said at the beginning of the year, I'm not going to falter now. A couple tough losses, but if you look at it, the Bills offense, fantastic, as well as the Lions offense. The Lions offense, even without Ben Johnson, that you saw that goal line play they drew up with the handoff pitch. I mean, how do you defend that, right? So there's a bunch of, and David Montgomery going for hard yards as well on the ground. So
he averaged 13 on the ground. He averaged 13 per carry.
Exactly. So it's the Ravens defense has kind of gotten exposed a little bit. But granted, it's been against some really, really good offenses. And so I think the Chiefs offense, and it's crazy to say this with the quarterback that they have, doesn't quite add up to some of the other two that they've faced. And so I think the Ravens are going to win this game. Yeah,
my worry with the Ravens would be in close games, they just seem to always screw up. They always seem to, mess something up.
That's fair.
And with the Chiefs, I know they're 0-2 in one-score games, but historically the Chiefs are really good at one-score games. And this to me feels like a one-score game. It feels like a 30-27 field goal game. Like every Lamar versus Patrick and Patrick versus Josh and Josh versus Lamar, all those games are usually very close. Mm-hmm. And if it's close, it's very hard for me to not take Mahomes in a close game. It's very difficult. I know he's lost 2 games this year by 1 score, but generally, if it's a tie game or down 3, I want Mahomes with the ball. This year, you might want Baker with the ball in his hands, but for real though, Mahomes in a close game is usually the guy you want more often than not. So to me, it's a pick 'em. It's a coin flip for me. Yeah. Honestly, I have no idea. It's just I'm interested to see who's going to be 1-3 because whoever's 1-3, the talk of this after this game, whoever's 1-3, the talk of that team on Monday morning is going to be.
That'll be the story.
It's going to be massive panic mode. It's like for whatever because if you're 1-3, you're not making. I mean, you might make the playoffs, but you're not controlling your destiny in the playoffs. You're basically having to go on the road, probably.
Yeah, we saw the Bengals. They started 1-3 last year, and even with the crazy comeback, they didn't quite get in. They finished 9-8. So yeah, you're definitely right. This is
a tough hold.
Huge storyline game. Huge storyline game.
Yeah, speaking of storylines, should we talk about the Packers and Cowboys for a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say it's a great segue right there.
There's some storylines there with Micah Parsons going back home to Dallas. That Dallas, first of all, before we even get to the game, that Dallas pass defense is atrocious. I mean, they're just handing out 500-yard games to whichever quarterback faces them is just here's 400 yards. Russell
credit to Caleb and Ben Johnson. I thought the game plan was good, but it didn't really even need to be that good because it felt like those corners were just consistently beat down the field.
Yeah, we mentioned this on the Micah Parsons, podcast where it's like that's going to hurt Dallas in more ways than one. Obviously, you have to have the quarterback. If you can't get to the quarterback,
defense.
Yeah, you can't cover for that long. If you can't get to the quarterback, which they can't get to the quarterback, no one can cover for more than 7 seconds in this league. The receivers are just too good. So I get it. It's so ridiculous that you trade a guy like Micah Parsons, and now he's coming back home to Dallas and probably going to wreak havoc. No CD Lamb for the Cowboys. It's going to be really tough. Now, Green Bay just, laid an egg in Cleveland, and now you got to turn around and you head back home in an emotional setting against Dallas with Micah Parsons' return game.
I think it's in Dallas, though.
It is in Dallas, yeah. So he's coming back to Dallas on Sunday Night Football, yeah. So what do we think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first instinct is Packers, and it's only 6.5 here. You would like to think that the Packers are going to pretty comfortably cover that. But like you said, I mean, they struggled against the Browns, and I think the Browns do have a very good defense.
It's really good.
Week 1 against the Bengals, they kind of shut them down. Obviously, that was with Burrow as well.
Yep.
And then the Ravens kind of won that game. Really more special teams than people realize.
They only had like 200 yards.
He didn't have the game that people probably think he did, considering what the score was. But yeah, so I mean, the Packers I think are still good here. I think the Browns obviously just kind of snuck one away. I think Jordan Love did kind of shrink a little bit. That late interception was not good. And, I've been kind of saying this, Jordan Love still has steps to take, right? I think he's got the shell and he's got his peak is awesome. And when he's playing his best, it's great, but he's still got steps to take. But I think this is a great get back spot for him. I'm sure Micah will probably have 2-3 sacks here. Like, it just feels like a spot where the Packers are going to be mad. They're going to be playing with a little chip extra because of the Micah stuff.
Yep.
And I think Jordan Love's, it's going to be kind of a teetering season, a little back and forth, up and down. But I think this is a spot for sure up. I mean, like you said, we've seen that the Cowboys secondary, it's just not pretty. And so, yeah, like we'll see how it goes. I think that the Packers cover this pretty comfortably. But I mean, who knows, man? It's football. Like you said, if you lose to the Browns, you can lose to anyone, respectfully to the Browns. So, I mean, I like Packers here, but you just never know.
I 100% agree. I think Green Bay took the league by storm with those first 2 games against Detroit and Washington, 2 really good teams, and they kind of punched them both in the mouth and won both relatively easily.
Yeah, very comfortable.
I always say I can't judge an NFL team until I see them on the road. And Green Bay's first road game was an epic. They did not pass the test at all. They went to Cleveland and literally laid an egg. So now they have to face another road team. They have to go on the road again and face Dallas. So, you get Green Bay away from Lambeau, maybe it's a different team. You only scored 10 points. Jordan Love looked shaky the whole game. I know Micah Parsons is an animal, so you have to deal with him. And you're very fortunate to not face Dallas with a Micah Parsons, because if you have to deal with Myles Garrett and then Micah Parsons right afterward, that would be very difficult. But obviously now you have Micah Parsons. That's the ultimate difference maker in this game, I think, to me. Because I think if you asked me before the season started, Packers, Cowboys, Sunday Night Football in Dallas, Micah Parsons against, that Packers, it could have been, maybe a go either way game. Now, obviously, Dallas is without Micah Parsons because they traded him to Green Bay. And they're without CD Lamb, their top receiver. They're also without Deron Bland, one of their better corners. So it just feels like to me this is all arrows pointing to Green Bay. Green Bay, if they lose this game, they'll be really embarrassing on the heels of an embarrassing loss. The Cleveland loss to me should have been a wake-up call. It's like, okay, we got to go on the road, and going on the road in NFL is not easy. If you go on the road and you can be beat by anyone on any given Sunday, that's literally the name of the league.
Yeah.
And winning road games in the NFL is not easy at all. So now you got to go on the road again. And it feels like you should be, okay, this is a wake-up call. Let's punch. Dallas is a wounded animal. Their defense is getting carved up every week by the likes of Russell Wilson, who's now benched, the likes of Caleb Williams, who prior to that game had not had a 400 whatever it was yard game like that, quite to like that efficiency wise. Dallas, if it wasn't for that rain delay against Philly, they weren't going to stop them at all that whole game. They were not going to punt. Didn't look like. So Dallas just can't get to the quarterback. So this should be a much more comfortable game for Jordan Love after having to run away from Myles Garrett for 60 minutes on Sunday. You should be much more comfortable in the pocket. Make these throws. It's a dome game Sunday night. They should be fine.
Yeah,
in Dallas.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree there. Definitely agree.
Yeah. So is there anything else on Sunday we have to talk about, or should we segue into college football?
That's probably it. I mean, we've got a couple more fun ones. Vikings Steelers is a
in Dublin. One. Yeah, it's
Dublin. Yeah, that's the one that's in Ireland, right? Yeah. So there's a couple good ones. Seahawks Cardinals on Thursday will be interesting. Those are both a couple 2-1 teams that are kind of sneaky. Kind of teams that are probably under the radar right now. But yeah, I'm happy to move forward if you want to.
Yeah, those are games. Those are interesting ones, but not necessarily headline games by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. I believe Carson Wentz is starting for Minnesota. I do think that Minnesota defense that Brian Flores defense also had to face Aaron Rodgers last year in a 9:30 a.m. Across the pond game. They really roughed up Aaron Rodgers and the Jets last year. So now he's in the Steelers, and they got to face Brian Flores again. So that'll be an interesting one there in Dublin. But yeah, for college football slate, there's a few. It's a loaded slate this week, George. I mean,
this week is awesome for college football.
Yeah, which one should we start with? I had LSU Ole Miss written down. I had Oregon Penn State written down. I had Bama Georgia, obviously.
I think the headliner's probably Oregon Penn State, although Bama Georgia, it's really either way. But yeah, if we can go Oregon Penn State, it's the whiteout game. It's going to be an awesome environment. It's going to be great. I think that I think that it's a prove-it game for both head coaches.
Yeah.
It's Dan Lanning, since he's got to Oregon, he beat Ohio State last year in a really nice win, but and he won the Big Ten against Penn State. So it's a Big Ten championship rematch, I'm sure we'll get to. But I think he still has a good bit to prove. He's a great recruiter. He's a great coach. I love Dan Lanning, but I think it's a prove-it game. And obviously James Franklin, every ranked game he plays is a prove-it game. It's all he hears, all the time. So this is a tough one. It's Penn State -3.5. I'm sure that's a lot of whiteout action on that there.
Yeah.
Because on a neutral field, I just don't even know where I'd look. Because
I'd like the 3 in the hook there with Oregon. I'd like the hook there. I think.
Yeah, I think the hook is big.
That's big. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a game where Drew Aller's going to have to play his best, and you just don't know what you're going to get. It's college football, so what do you got to say?
This is a tough one for me. By the way, I don't know if I just realized. I just actually found this out about an hour or two ago. Penn State has not beaten a top 10 team in 10 years. 2016 was the last time it happened. They are 0 for their last 14 against AP top 10 teams. Now, they beat Boise State last year in the CFP, but that was not necessarily a top 10 win. They were seeded top 10, but regular season wise, they have not beaten a top 10 team in the regular season. They had that bowl win against Utah in the Rose Bowl a few years ago when Utah was top 10, but they haven't actually beaten a team in the top 10 in the regular season, because sometimes these bowl games guys sit out, it is what it is. But so there's a lot of pressure on Penn State to not lose again and drop to 0 in their last 15 against AP top. They've had a lot of opportunities. It feels like Penn State's always playing a top 10 team at least twice a year. Michigan and Ohio State the last few years, they were always in the top 10. And now you have a chance with Oregon. They had a chance last year against Oregon in the Big Ten title game, like you mentioned. They lost. Now they get Oregon at home in Happy Valley at night with the whiteout. This feels like as big an opportunity as you can. They have the more veteran roster. Oregon lost a lot of guys to the league. They did reload, of course, but Penn State brought a lot of guys back, including the two-headed monster spearheaded at running back by Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. It just feels like in these games, oftentimes Penn State's not very balanced. They can't really throw the ball efficiently in these big games, that is, against the Ohio States, against the Oregons, against the Michigans. And against Notre Dame last year, that was their MO. That was their downfall. They had no catches by any receivers in that game against Notre Dame. So when teams take something away from them, they haven't really been able to, have a counterattack. Oregon is playing really good football, but the Oregon's weakness right now, actually, funny enough, is stopping the run. Yeah. So if Penn State can lean on the run game, maybe they'll have some effectiveness in the game. I think I'm going to lean Penn State, but it's going to be very, very close.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think it's safe to lean just kind of the home team, especially in that whiteout environment. It's going to be awesome. Right. It is, like you said, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. I'm so glad it's not big noon kickoff. Thank God they got the night game in there for that. It's awesome. But yeah, like you said, Oregon has struggled to stop the run a little bit. I mean, they've really blown out everyone they faced. So stopping the run, it's kind of just, it's kind of take it with a grain of salt because they haven't really played anybody. And it goes the same way for Penn State, obviously. So it's going to be interesting. It's a coming out show for both of these guys. It's still September, obviously. So this game doesn't decide anything per se, but it's a spot where, if Penn State wins this, they got Indiana right after, and then it's kind of a pretty easy schedule all the way through at the end. Not Penn State, Oregon, I should say, has a pretty easy schedule finishing through. So it feels like a game where whoever wins this might win the Big Ten. Obviously Ohio State's going to have something to say about that. Washington and Southern Cal as well. But yeah, this feels like the two, not the two top dogs, obviously Ohio State, but 2 of the 3 top dogs. And I think that Oregon's going to be able to score enough to where Penn State has to throw the ball. Yeah. Which I'm excited to see what Drew Aller looks like. He's kind of looked a little bit interesting. People talking about they didn't allow him to scramble out of the pocket. They wanted to keep him kind of under a certain constraints or whatever. I don't know how true all that is. I think we're going to see it all against Oregon if they have to. And so, this is a game where guys are going to make money. Drew Aller's is an NFL game. This is kind of defense.
A lot of scouts.
A lot of scouts, a lot of eyes on it. A game where Drew Aller's going to have to kind of show what he's made of. So it's bigger than just the football game. It's personal for him. So, it's going to be a fun one. I can't wait to watch it. I think I'm going to go Penn State here, but I'd like Oregon to cover for sure.
Oregon's playing with house money. I agree with the Oregon to cover thing. I just think Oregon, there's a lot of pressure on both teams. Don't get me wrong. But it does feel like the winner of this game will dictate. This will dictate who goes to Indianapolis for the Big Ten title game, because this is one. Oregon doesn't play Ohio State this year. They do play Penn State. So if Oregon beats Penn State, they're going to be in the Big 12. They're going to be in the Big Ten title game because they don't play the Ohio. They're not going to probably drop another game, or maybe only one game, and then they'll have a tiebreaker with Penn State. Blah blah blah. And Ohio State plays Penn State in Columbus. So Penn State, if you're going to win one of these 2 games, you'd like to get the home game against Oregon and not have to go on the road in Columbus and win that game. Because if they beat Oregon, they're going to go to Indianapolis. They don't have to even beat Ohio State to probably make that Big Ten title game. So this is a huge game to see who goes to Indy, who can punch their ticket to the college ball playoff. Penn State's played nobody through 3 weeks. This is really their first game. Oregon basically hasn't played anybody either. They did play Oklahoma State, who is a Power 4 team, but now they fired Mike Gundy.
With
So
their coach on,
yeah, they haven't really played anybody either. Oklahoma State's terrible. So Oregon, this is basically their coming out party as well. So I'm really interested. We don't know enough about either of these teams because they haven't played anybody yet. Whereas I'm going to go Penn State, leaning by less than 3. I'm leaning it's going to be a very close game, late, decided by a field goal or whatever. But this next game, Bama, Georgia, both of these teams have played somebody so far. Bama obviously went on the road and played Florida State. Georgia went on the road and played Tennessee. So Bama, Georgia is always a classic. What do we think about this one?
Yeah, I love Georgia here. I think that it's going to be a big spot for Bama. Bama kind of needs this one. The Florida State loss was unexpected, unprecedented, obviously. Yep. And I just love Georgia. It feels like Georgia's a team that can kind of withhold anything. Like they can take anything. They came out last week against Tennessee, or 2 weeks ago against Tennessee. They got punched in the mouth 21, 3 straight drives, and they just stuck around. They weren't playing their best football. And then they got a little lucky with the missed kick, but you got to be in the position to get lucky in order to get lucky at the end of the day, right? So I think Georgia's better here. I think the home field's going to be nice. I think that Alabama's been kind of tuning up the last couple of weeks. They're coming off the bye week, so I'd love to see Bama come out with kind of just a rejuvenated, fresh energy, and they're just hitting on all cylinders. But I just trust Kirby Smart more, to be honest. I think that Kalen DeBoer is great. I think that he kind of has an issue of coaching to his competition. Both good and bad here. We've kind of seen it pretty much since Washington. He's beat Dan Lanning 3 different times. He's also lost to Vanderbilt. He's lost to Florida State, who was kind of a bad team at the time, right? So I think that I trust Kirby more here. I trust the rosters are pretty much equivalent. You can't really pick a preferred roster. Ryan Williams is awesome. I mean, Zachariah Branch is awesome. There's weapons everywhere, defense, offense everywhere. So to me, it's just who do you trust coaching wise? And I trust Georgia, and Georgia's at home. So I mean, I'm gonna roll with the dogs.
I'm gonna roll with Bama. I don't really know why. Alabama's been a horrible road team
for no reason at all.
No, there's not really a reason at all. There's a reason. I watched Georgia against Tennessee, and I was really appalled by how bad they were defensively. I mean, I know they missed the kid missed the field goal at the end, so Georgia kind of got fortunate to get it overtime. But I watched them just get run on by Tennessee. I also watched them get thrown on by Tennessee, and I know Kirby off a bye. He's probably gonna get things figured out. But I've never seen a Georgia defense just get flat out gashed like that from start to finish of the game. And I just think Alabama's flat out. I think Alabama's better than Tennessee. I just think Alabama can scare you more than Tennessee can, at least vertically. And I think that they're just a more physical team than Tennessee. I think up front that Bama's just a better team than Tennessee. And Ty Simpson's playing better football since that Florida State game. Ryan Williams is back healthy. He made a crazy play against Wisconsin the other week. Jeremy Bernard. I mean, Alabama's playing sneakily better than they did in week 1.
Yeah.
And Georgia, again, I know they had that road win at Tennessee, and it was very impressive. They withhold a lot of adversity in that game. They came back and won it. And Kirby, I absolutely trust more than Kalen DeBoer in these big games. They don't lose at home in between the hedges. I totally get that. Georgia's a home wagon, no doubt about it. Something about me tells me that Bama needs this one. If Bama loses this game, they're ranked 17 right now. If they lose this game, they're gonna be unranked. You're not gonna rank a 2-2 team. 2-2 teams don't really get. Unless you're Notre Dame. Unless you're Notre Dame. So maybe they would.
1-2 Notre Dame. That is
1-2 Notre Dame with a win now against Purdue. They are ranked. But yeah, Bama's 2-2 with wins over UL Monroe and Wisconsin. Is that enough to keep them in the polls? I have no idea.
I would never say so now.
Who knows with the AP poll? It's kind of a joke. But nonetheless, I think that they need this win against Georgia to really – they're 17 right now. If you lose, maybe you drop 8 spots. I don't know, maybe. Yeah. But I just think that this is a must-win for Kalen DeBoer. They've been so tragic on the road, and they hear this. All the rat poison, to use Nick Saban's point, there's so much rat poison with Alabama. They can't win a road game. They got smoked by Vandy on the road last year. They got smoked by Oklahoma on the road last year. They got smoked by Florida State on the road this year. They've been a bad road team the last year and a half. So they need this one a lot. I don't know what tells me they're going to win this game. I don't know if it's, Georgia's coming off a huge win, emotional letdown spot, but
sure.
I like Bama. I don't know. I just think that they're going to go in there. And Bama's always had Kirby's number. Obviously with Saban. But even last year, I mean, the Dogs played one of their worst games last year.
Almost brought it all the way back.
They almost brought it all the way back and won. But the first 3 quarters,
you're right.
From the Dogs.
And it feels like a lot of the same problems, right? The secondary was getting smoked. And I was going to say, the Tennessee-Georgia game, to me, it felt a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit fraudulent, right? I thought Georgia was better than Tennessee more than the score showed. And you might not agree with this, but I think that if the Georgia secondary, and I think it will, is going to improve. We saw Michael Brazel come down like 2 or 3 different times, which just grab it out of the sky.
That's not going to happen. Yeah.
That's not going to happen. I mean, maybe Brian Williams, and we saw it last year in this game. Maybe one, but to me, I think that's something that's not going to happen as much, like you said.
Yeah.
And then similarly, like you mentioned, this is kind of a huge spot for Bama. They need this. To me, and this is it's only been a year sample size, but to me, the Kalen DeBoer era at Bama, in a huge spot when they need it, to me, it feels like they've kind of felt that pressure, right? That Oklahoma game last year against not the best Oklahoma team. They only scored 27, which is a good bit of they put up 3 points in Oklahoma's building, right? Yeah. So to me, it feels like in some of these big spots, Bama's been known to feel the pressure. And they've been sitting for a week waiting, they've been listening, like you said, all the rat poison. And I think if this was a Nick Saban team, I'd feel even more comfortable knowing that rat poison is making them just fired up. Nick Saban's getting them going. But with Kalen DeBoer, it's like things feel a little bit different. Feels like we're maybe a little bit softer. And I hate using that word, but it kind of feels that way. And I think Alabama fans would probably agree with me.
Yeah.
And it just, to me, it feels like they're kind of feeling that pressure a little bit. And I think that, like you said, Georgia's going to pack the house. It's also a night game. It's going to be all day to drink in Athens, Georgia. And it's going to be a very, very fun environment. So if Bama comes out kind of with the way they did last year with that early 28-0 lead or whatever it was, obviously I think they're going to win this game. But I just don't know if I see that happening. And I think I see Georgia getting better in the secondary. I'd like to think for my own pick. And obviously they're the home team and I trust Kirby. So I'm saying the Dogs here.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I think the dictating of this game, what I'm interested to see really is because Bama was called soft in week 1. They were run all over by Florida State. Can Georgia run the ball, which they've struggled to do, at least in the last year and a half? They were really not a great run team last year.
Their line is kind of,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's some issues there. So if they can lean on Nate Frazier, if they can run the ball effectively, that would even more emphasize the holes that Alabama has stopping the run. But this is a huge game for Alabama to kind of prove, hey, we're not soft. We can stop the run against a team that has struggled to run the ball. So if Bama's able to kind of stifle that Georgia run game and kind of flip the script as to what we saw in week 1 against Florida State, that would be like, oh, wait, Bama has turned a leaf here. And then you would start to see Georgia's weaknesses exposed a little bit. If Bama can obviously exploit them, which we don't know if they can or not, but we'll find out Saturday night. The last one,
another storyline game.
It's another storyline game, and there's a few other ones here that we could hit. I mean, you got USC against Illinois.
It's gonna be an awesome Saturday.
Yeah, Auburn A&M's a really good one too. Ohio State's got to go to Washington in Seattle. Washington has the longest win streak in college football. They have not lost a home game since 2021.
In P5. Is that right? Home win streak. Home
win streak. Yeah, exactly. They have the longest home win streak. Washington has not lost a home game since 2021, so they have not lost in 4 years at home. And for Ohio State, Julian Sagan's making his first career road start. We know how those go. Bryce Underwood made his first career road start.
There's a couple.
Arch Manning made his first career road starts are hard, especially in that building. The one I want to get to though here is LSU and Ole Miss. Number 4 LSU, number 13 Ole Miss.
Some off the field action on this one as well.
Some off the field action this one before the game starts. We obviously know Lane Kiffin is the coach for Ole Miss. His daughter Landry, is
Lane Kiffin loves Lane Kiffin loves the spotlight.
He loves the drama.
To me that kind of don't there's Bill Belichick. It kind of felt like he hated it. Just keep that camera away from me.
Lane loves the camera.
Lane's he's got a what's it called, a documentary dropping this week, I believe. So
okay, I'm gonna have to tune into that. Yeah.
He wants to be known. He wants to be a known commodity.
Of course, he's obviously big on Twitter as well, as we know.
And his dog is too.
Yes, of course. Whit Weeks for LSU, the captain of that defense, the linebacker. Obviously, we've seen in the news there. But no, this game is at the Grove. It's in Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I saw this earlier. They're actually the 1 point favorite in this game. They're 1.5 point favorite over LSU in this game. Ole Miss has a new quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, the Division II transfer from Ferris State. Won the national title last year with Ferris State. A lot of NIL money, a lot of money was dipped into Austin Simmons being the new quarterback for Ole Miss. He got injured in that Kentucky game. Chambliss came in, had a few nice explosive runs, and has not given that job back. He obviously put up, I believe, 30, 38, 40 against Arkansas in that close win against Arkansas the following week at Ole Miss. Then last week they throttled Tulane. I believe it was like 45-3.
Yeah,
Tulane's a good team. Tulane's a good team now. So now they're gonna start Trinidad Chambliss against LSU. That LSU defense has been unbelievable. We can obviously speak to it because we saw them in person against Clemson. Then they made DJ Lagway look like he was seeing ghosts with that 5 interception game. So LSU's defense has been unbelievable through 4 weeks. And now Ole Miss's offense has been unbelievable for the last few weeks. And Trinidad Chambliss has gone in there. They're averaging about 42 points a game. So what's our read on this game? Obviously, Ole Miss is like kind of like the surprising favorite in this one because I think LSU is one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country.
Yeah, to be honest, it's tough because LSU Ole Miss's home environment is not exactly some of the other SEC environments, and so I think that this might actually be a game where it's an even spread and Ole Miss is only getting like 1 point on the home half, and I think the line is kind of a reflection of Nussmeier's not fully healthy.
Right.
LSU is they had the big win against Tulane, but it just kind of feels like they've been inconsistent, or not Tulane.
Clemson.
Oh yeah, but they blew someone out the other day. Is what I'm saying.
They did. I believe it was La Tech or something.
Yeah, it was like La Tech or something. But they hadn't really scored more than 20 points in a game really all year. So to me, it's the LSU defense. The story here.
That's the story.
I'm not sure what to think about Trinidad Chambliss. He's been good so far, and but he hasn't really played anybody. Tulane.
Arkansas and Tulane.
Did he play the Arkansas game?
He played the whole Arkansas game.
That's on me there. I didn't realize he had played that game.
I think they scored like 38 points, whatever it was.
That's a legit win. That's my apologies.
Yeah,
I think that LSU still has a lot to prove is what I'm trying to get to here, because I think that, and I hate to say it, but week by week the Clemson win just looks a little bit worse.
Good,
it felt like that they probably should have won the game by a little bit more, and they probably did on paper. But yeah, I think that this is a letdown spot for LSU. I mean, I like Ole Miss. I like Lane Kiffin. I think he's going to come with an awesome offensive plan. He's been watching that defense for a few weeks now. I think that Lane's going to come out with enough of a plan to keep him in this game. But I think the LSU defense and Garrett Nussmeier is strong enough and comfortable enough to win this. And as an underdog, I'm a little surprised. I might have to actually put some action on this, because I trust LSU to definitely keep this close and probably win.
Yeah, this is a tough one. When I saw Ole Miss was favored, I was like, wait, do I not know something? Because I just think the LSU defense makes one or two plays to win the game. Again, it's a D2 transfer. Chambliss is playing outstanding football, but this LSU defense is on another level. I think Nussmeier, he struggled through 4 games. Maybe he's not looked healthy at all. We know he's not healthy, but I just feel like LSU's a sleeping giant offensively. They're too talented offensively to not score 20 points or not score more than 20 points. Like Aaron Anderson, Nick Anderson, Cade Durham, Nussmeier, like they outline it.
Barry Brown,
Barry and Brown is unbelievable. They have too many talented players on offense to not eventually break out. And I think that's ultimately what Brian Kelly was getting to, was like, hey, we're doing enough to win these games. It doesn't have to be pretty necessarily, but we're winning these games 20-10, 17-10 over Clemson, 20-10 over Florida, 27 to whatever against La Tech, whatever. They're not really scoring money, or 20-3, whatever it was. But they're not really scoring 30. They may have to in this game because Ole Miss's offense is real. I just think ultimately LSU's defense makes enough plays. They make 1 or 2 plays late in the game that dictate it. I think it's a 1-score game late. Yeah. And I think whoever gets the ball last, if Nussmeier gets the ball last, I just kind of have faith in him going down and scoring and winning the game for LSU. And I think, contrary, if Ole Miss gets the ball last within a score, I think the LSU defense makes 1 play to seal it. You saw against Clemson down there in the red zone. Clemson was going in to tie the game with half a minute left, and Harold Perkins on that. Yeah, I think overall the LSU defense just has enough athletes on the field to come up with 1 game sealing play. They just have proven to me so far through 4 weeks they're making the plays defensively to winning games. So ultimately, I'm going to go LSU.
And I think on top of that, I think the defensive, another thing that kind of the better defense kind of gives you is if the game does kind of get flipped on its head, it becomes a turnover game where one team throws 2 picks or one team fumbles 3 times or has a kick return touchdown, whatever it is, special teams. I think having that better defense is what keeps you in that game and allows you to probably win it in the long run. It's one thing if Ole Miss just comes out hair on fire like Florida State week 1 and just torches them. That's one thing, but I just don't see that happening. I think LSU is better personnel wise, even with a not fully healthy Nuss. So I think this is an LSU spot. I mean, I think Kiffin's going to have his guys ready, but like you said, that Ole Miss defense, probably not quite enough.
No, I'm with you there. So, all right. So looking forward to this.
I will.
Yep.
I just wanted to, before we sign off, I think we're almost done here. One more game that we don't have to get too much into, but it's kind of like the Super Bowl for this team who's 4-0 is Tennessee, Mississippi State. Starkville, they're 4-0 for the first time, I think, since like 2009 or something. I could be wrong on that, but it's been a while.
Dak Prescott was undefeated that 1 year.
Dak, sorry. 2015, but they haven't like really since that 1 year. But Starkville coming off a big win against Arizona State. They got a ranked win. They're the first time this is what that was. It was the first time in I don't know how long that a 4-0 SEC team is unranked. So they've got a chip on their shoulder. They're 4-0 in the SEC and they're unranked. I think it's been 15 plus years since that's happened. So Tennessee's coming in. They lost to Georgia, obviously. Their defense looked like it's beatable. And I'm not saying Mississippi State's going to win this game, but Blake Shapen's a good player. They're live. The line opened at 9.5. It's moved to 7.5. The public loves Mississippi State here.
I do too.
So I think that it's one of those games, 4:15 on SEC Network. When you're getting ready for the 7:30 kickoffs and all the great 7:30 games that we've got, don't be surprised if they're in an actual fight, Tennessee, Mississippi State. Because I love Joey Aguilar. I think he runs that offense very well. But he did have his a couple mistakes here and there against Georgia. And if Mississippi State, I think, can kind of shorten the game a little bit, make it a compact couple possessions and have some extended drives, I think they can win this game. I don't think they will. Obviously, I like Tennessee here, but it's a big game and it's kind of like a mini Super Bowl in Starkville because they've got a bunch more dogs coming behind them, and they're 4-0 right now.
Yeah, if they win this game, they'll be 5-0 with a chance to make a bowl game, which would be crazy.
With 2 ranked wins.
2 ranked wins over Arizona State, and this would be Tennessee. I think this is a game where I said it a couple days ago in a group chat I was like, watch out for this 4:15 start. It's kind of sandwiched in between. There's a lot of good 3:30 games on the window.
That's what I'm saying,
Auburn, Texas A&M, and also Ohio State, Washington is in that 3:30 window. There's a lot of good 3:30 games, and then it's sandwiched in between that 7 o'clock window. You get this 4:15 start. in Starkville on the SEC network. That home environment is going to be crazy. Tennessee obviously is off that.
Cowbells are going to be going crazy.
Yeah, they had a tune-up game last week against UAB, which they won easily. But Tennessee's still stewing off that home loss to Georgia. That's gonna be a really interesting one. I do lean Tennessee in that one as well. Just like you said. But yeah. So looking forward for this podcast on Monday, I believe is when Sunday night obviously is when the MLB postseason graphic will be out. The bracket will be out, so we can make our predictions. We can probably do that Monday, like a quick. We'll just go through our
little short
postseason prediction. We'll go through our full postseason predictions and kind of just say, okay, here's who we have, in the race to
make a bracket. We can make a bracket.
Yeah, we'll make our bracket. We'll have like the graphic out here, whatever it is. But in the race to the Fall Classic, we will make our predictions there, and then obviously we can do that on Monday, or I believe Tuesday is the wild card game ones. I believe it's Tuesday.
I think that's right.
Tuesday is the game. There's 4 game ones, and then obviously Wednesday. And if it gets to a game 3, that would be Thursday. But the division series is next weekend. So obviously Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is the wild card series, and then you get Friday, Saturday, Sunday Saturday and Sunday is game 1 and 2 in the division series. So we'll definitely be we'll be seeing. This is an interesting time. And October is the best month, I believe, for sports. You obviously have college football, NFL. You have the MLB going on, and literally the Fall Classic is in November, but you have the race to October right now is
the football grind and the postseason for baseball. It's the best.
It's incredible. It's the best for me. But yeah, thanks, George. We're gonna be signing off for now. Great football weekend we have looking forward to us here, and obviously the race, these pennant races are going to be really interesting to watch. But yeah, thanks, George, for hopping on and getting this episode done with us.
Yeah, can't wait.
All right.